Hello, I'm Pastor Dave, and this is a recap of our sermon for June 24th, 2023. Here we go. This weekend we covered Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 through 30 and 36 through 43. In these verses, we have Jesus' parable of the weeds and also his explanation of that parable. Now, when we look at this parable, something we can take away from it is that there is a difference between being a disciple and avoiding punishment. It's easy to think that it does not matter, but it really does. The motivation behind our faith is important. And we can see this from the point that we are called to be disciples. We're not called to avoid something bad. This is not what always happens, however. Sometimes we confuse faith with seeking a reward. It's understandable that people want to go to heaven and avoid hell. We don't want to endure the bad. We want what is good. But seeking the good reward isn't what God calls us to do. It's a reward for living the good faith in Jesus Christ, not just not being a bad person. And this is one of the things that we need to remember, because God will see and know our true motivations. If we only seek to get to heaven and not seek God, God will know that. It's much like the parable of the weeds, where the weeds and the wheat are so very similar until harvest time, at which point the wheat droops over so the harvesters can go and pluck out all the weeds. God knows the difference between the two. And it is that reminder that we should be motivated by wanting to follow Jesus Christ and follow him towards reconciliation with God. And this is important because there are consequences for our actions. There are consequences for following Christ, and there is a consequence for only seeking a self-centered reward. And when it comes to faith, we should remember that instead of focusing on avoiding the bad, we should strive to faith in Christ and do what God asks us to do. If we do what God asks of us to do and embrace the grace that God extends to us, then there is nothing to fear in the first place. So that's your recap for this week. Remember, we worship Saturday night at 6:30, Sunday morning at 10:45, and we stream that Sunday morning service at 10:45 on the WSUMC Live Facebook page. But until next time, I'm Pastor Dave, and I hope to see you in worship.